Hey everyone, welcome to Plants and Politics. I have an update to share about two of Trump's Capitol insurrectionists. It's time for an episode of Where Are They Now?
Matthew Bledsoe was arrested.
Patrick Montgomery was in court.
Jonathan Manapa will stay in federal custody.
No, I don't take responsibility at all.
So 56-year-old Esther Schwemmer and 61-year-old Jennifer Parks are Kansas residents, and they're friends who insurrection together. The FBI received a tip about these two women when someone sent a screenshot of a text message that was written by Parks' daughter. It read, quote, "So depressed over all of the cheating in the election. Mom and her friend went to Washington for the march. Wish I could have gone too, LOL. We should all be climbing over those walls. They pushed us too far." So the FBI located the women in photos and surveillance video, and both Schwemmer and Parks were seen not just outside the Capitol, but also inside the Capitol. Schwemmer was seen wearing a Trump 2020 flag around her neck, like a cape, and she was wearing a Make America Great Again snow cap on her head. And the FBI interviewed both of them on January 17th, separately, but both on the same day. And they admitted that they entered the Capitol through an open door. They also claimed that the officers didn't try to stop them and that they encountered no barricades as they made their way to the Capitol. So Schwemmer and Parks were each arrested on April 23rd. Parks actually self-surrendered, so she wasn't physically arrested, and they were each charged with the same four misdemeanors that we keep seeing over and over again: entering a restricted building or grounds, 2 counts of disorderly conduct, 1 count of parading in a Capitol building. They entered into plea agreements, each of them did, in September, and both Schwemmer and Parks pleaded guilty to the parading charge, which comes with up to a 6-month sentence in prison, about $5,000 in fines, and so forth. So the prosecutors acknowledged that these women didn't commit any acts of violence. They didn't destroy any property. They also noted that they were a little late to the party. Once they reached the Capitol, the breaking and entering part was pretty much done. But prosecutors did say that they should have known not to enter the building because apparently the doors and windows were clearly broken when they arrived and the alarms were blaring. As they walked through the doors, the alarms were going off. So they knew they weren't supposed to be in there. So prosecutors asked for 30 days of home confinement, 3 years of probation, and 60 hours of community service, plus a $500 restitution fee for each of the women. Schwemmer and Parks, on the other hand, were asking for only 12 months of probation. In court, Schwemmer told the judge, quote, "I'm deeply ashamed of my actions on that day. Nothing about it was Christ-like. I hope in time I can forgive myself." And apparently, Schwemmer is a naturalized U.S. citizen who, according to Law and Crime News outlet, quote, "spent her childhood in a post-World War II refugee camp in Germany." Evidently, Schwemmer also had submitted a letter to the judge prior to sentencing, and then in that letter, she went into more detail about her childhood experience. And she wrote in part, quote, "I wish only to disappear into obscurity for the remainder of my years. I'm determined to stay away from politics and work on trying to make amends for my conduct on January 6th. I am deeply sorry that what started out as an act of patriotism on my part ended up so wrong." So the judge overseeing Schwemmer's case was unfortunately Dabney Friedrich. That's the Trump appointee that I had mentioned in another recent sentencing. Judge Friedrich told Schwemmer that she also hoped that she could forgive herself in time, and she believed that her remorse was sincere. However, she did say that Schwemmer's crime was, quote, "a very serious offense," and that it was, quote, "in no way an act of patriotism, nor was it an exercise in her First Amendment rights." So Friedrich sentenced Schwemmer to 24 months of probation, 60 hours of community service, and that was it. No fines, no fees, nothing else. Now, Parks, her case was overseen by a different judge. She did receive the same sentence, but her case was handled by U.S. District Judge Carl Nichols. So I think that's why Schwemmer was given this sentence, because Parks had already been sentenced, and that's what Nichols gave her. So Parks declined to speak at her sentencing. She said that she might, quote, lose it if she started to speak. She did, however, write a letter to the court, which you guys are going to hear. It's another me letter. So it said in part, quote, since January 6th last year, my life has turned upside down. I was devastated when I learned of the violence that had occurred at the Capitol that day and that I had been a part of it. That's pretty much where it ends on her caring about what happened as a result of her actions. So she goes on to say, quote, my mother was so traumatized by my arrest that we had to move her to a retirement home. She struggles to try and understand what happened. How can I help her when I can hardly understand it myself? The news article that was released about my arrest included my phone number, and I received disturbing calls and texts. Because of this, I decided to retire early and close my business that I've had for 35 years. Don't do that, guys. Don't be like these people attacking election workers. Don't harass these people. Don't call them. Don't threaten them. It's so beneath us. Just don't do it. Okay. Anyway, Park's letter also mentioned a second arrest, which apparently was a mistake because the warrant for her arrest hadn't been cleared. So they didn't know that she had already been arrested. So she went for a doctor's appointment, and apparently it's at I think it's an army base. I can't remember exactly where they said, but it was some sort of military facility. And she was arrested when she showed her ID at the gate. So her closing paragraph stated, quote, all these charges are difficult and challenging, but I realize they are consequences of my actions on January 6th. If I could have that day back, I would not have gone to Washington, D.C., and I certainly would not have walked to the Capitol. I sincerely apologize for my actions. I believe I am wiser and more discerning now than I was then, and I will spend years trying to make it up to the people I've disappointed. So again, I don't know. This just sounds like more of the same. Me, the people I care about. I want to make it up to them. But, what about the other people? Like, what about the people who were hiding under desks in dark rooms that day? The people who were literally in tears, praying that they would once again get to see their loved ones because they were so terrified. What about the officers who sustained such traumatic head injuries that they literally took their own lives? I guess I understand their point in writing letters like this. I get that they're trying to prove to the judge how much they've already paid for their crimes, so there's no need to give me a harsh sentence. But, for the rest of the country, for the rest of us, and especially for the people who were there that day, who were terrified, or their loved ones who were watching all of this unfold on TV and knew that they had someone in that building who was their everything. It's hard to forgive people when they haven't even apologized. So yeah, you suffered. You suffered because of your own actions. That's what happens when you commit a crime. How about one of these people apologize to everyone else, and especially the people who were there in that building that day and the officers who were physically attacked? Anyway, guys, I'll let you know if I hear any more. Thanks so much for watching and listening. Take care. I'll talk with you soon.